Imagine for a moment that you are trapped in a strange and twisted dystopian future. In this world, your entire existence depends on a single game of chance. You are standing before a massive silo. This silo is filled with billions upon billions of colored lottery balls. To survive, you must reach in and draw one specific ball. The odds are already stacked against you in a way that feels impossible. But the rules are even harsher than that. You do not just have to pull that one specific ball once. You have to pull the exact same ball 3 times in a row. If you fail even once, the game is over. Now, if you actually stepped up to that machine and somehow pulled the right ball 3 times consecutively, you would not be standing there thinking about how lucky you are. You would not be praising your good fortune. Instead, you would be certain of one thing. You would know that the lottery was rigged. You would realize that someone somewhere had set the machine up in your favor. This is exactly how many scientists and philosophers feel when they look at our universe. This concept is known as fine-tuning. When we examine the fundamental laws of physics, the universe feels like it has been rigged in our favor. The odds of getting all the right conditions for a life-permitting universe by pure accident are so small that they are almost impossible to wrap the human mind around. It is much more plausible and much more logical to believe that someone set it up just right. This is not just a poetic feeling. It is a conclusion based on the very numbers that govern our reality. It is as if the universe saw us coming and prepared a place for us to live. Let us look at some of the most incredible examples of this fine-tuning. We can start with something we all feel every day, which is the gravitational constant. Gravity is the invisible force that keeps our feet on the ground and keeps the planets in their orbits. If gravity were even slightly different, our universe would not exist as it does. If it were stronger or weaker by just 1 part in 10 to the 40th power, stars would not be able to form properly. To give you an idea of how precise that is, imagine a ruler that stretches across the entire observable universe. This ruler is divided into 1-inch increments. If you moved the setting for gravity by just 1 inch on that multi-billion light-year ruler, the result would be catastrophic. Without stars, there is no light, there is no heat, and there is no life. The precision of gravity suggests a hand that balanced the scales before the first star ever flickered into existence. It reminds us of the words in the book of Job, where God asks who marked off the dimensions of the earth and who stretched a measuring line across it. Then we have the cosmological constant. This value governs how fast the universe expands. It is the energy density of empty space. If this constant were different by just a tiny fraction, specifically 1 part in 10 to the 120th power, the universe would be a disaster. If it were a little stronger, the universe would have expanded so fast that galaxies and stars could never have clumped together. Matter would be spread so thin that nothing could ever touch. If it were a little weaker, the entire universe would have collapsed back in on itself almost immediately after it began. In both of those scenarios, life is completely impossible. We are living on a knife's edge of mathematical perfection. To put that number in perspective, it is like trying to hit a target the size of a single atom from the other side of the galaxy. Yet, here we are. We can even look at the very small things, like the strong nuclear force. This is the force that holds the nuclei of atoms together. It is the cosmic glue of the microscopic world. If this force were just 2% stronger or 2% weaker, we would have no stable elements. There would be no carbon, no oxygen, and no water. If it were slightly weaker, the only element in the universe would be hydrogen. If it were slightly stronger, all the hydrogen would have burned up in the early stages of the universe,
A
leaving no
royal
fuel for the
flush.
stars. The electromagnetic force is the same way. If it were off by even a tiny margin, atoms could not hold together. There would be no chemistry and no building blocks for life.
Game right now!
Every time we look deeper into the fabric
I'm
of
done with
reality,
this. You
we
owe me
find
that
these
money.
dials. It is as if there is a giant control room for the universe with dozens of dials, and every single one of them has been turned to the exact right position to allow us to exist. Think of it like playing a game of poker. If you are sitting at a table and someone pulls a royal flush, you might think they are having a lucky night. But what if that same person hits a royal flush 12 times in a row?
Absolutely not! This is
At that
ridiculous!
point,
It
you
isn't
stop
real!
thinking about luck. You start looking at the dealer. You become convinced that the dealer and the player are working together to rig the game. When we look at the universe, we see a royal flush happening over and over again in the laws of physics. It points straight to a design. It suggests that there is a mind behind the machinery. And for those of us who look at the world through the lens of faith, that design points straight to God. As we reflect on the incredible precision of our world, it becomes clear that we are not here by accident. Every detail of the cosmos seems to whisper the name of a creator. If you are finding this exploration of our amazing universe helpful and encouraging, please take a quick moment to hit the like button. It really helps our channel reach more people who are searching for these truths. And if you want to join us as we dive deeper into the mysteries of faith and science, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We are so glad to have you as part of this community. Your support allows us to keep producing content that honors God and explores the wonders of His creation. Now, some people are very skeptical of this argument. They try to find ways to explain away the miraculous nature of our existence. One common objection is called the anthropic principle. A skeptic might say that, of course, we find the universe to be fine-tuned for life, because if it were not, we would not be here to observe it. They argue that our existence is just a happy accident, and the fact that we are around to notice it does not mean it was intended. I like to call this the objection that proves way too much. To see why it fails, imagine you are standing in front of a firing squad. There are 50 trained marksmen with rifles pointed at your chest. You have a small hope that perhaps your cousin, who is in the squad, convinced everyone to miss. The command is given, the shots ring out, and you find yourself still standing. You are completely unharmed. According to the anthropic objection, you should not be surprised. You should just say that since you survived, the shots must have missed, and it is not worth thinking about. But that is clearly nonsense. The fact that you survived 50 trained marksmen is overwhelming evidence that they intended to miss. It points to a plan and a purpose. You would immediately begin to investigate who saved your life. In the same way, the fact that we are here in such an improbable universe is strong evidence that we were saved from non-existence by a purposeful act of creation. Another common argument is the puddle analogy. This was made famous by some online skeptics. They ask us to imagine a puddle named Doug. Doug wakes up in a hole in the ground and thinks to himself that the hole fits him perfectly. He concludes that the hole must have been designed specifically for him. The point of the analogy is to say that life just fits into whatever universe it finds itself in. But this analogy fails because life is not like a fluid. A puddle can take the shape of any hole, whether it is deep, shallow, wide, or narrow. But life requires very specific, rigid conditions. If you change the mass of an electron or the strength of a quark by a tiny amount, you do not get a different kind of life. You do not get a creature made of different materials. Instead, you get a dead universe. You get a universe where chemistry cannot even happen. Life is not a puddle. Life is more like a highly complex machine, such as a watch or a computer. A computer requires every part to be perfect just to start the engine. You cannot just throw a bunch of metal and silicon into a hole and expect a computer to form. The requirements for life are so narrow that they are practically a mathematical point. The puddle analogy tries to make the whole seem flexible, but the whole of physics is actually a razor-thin needle that we have somehow managed to thread. Then there is the theory of the multiverse. This is perhaps the most popular way to avoid the conclusion of a designer. The idea is that there might be billions or even an infinite number of universes. If you have enough universes, the argument goes, eventually one of them will have the right conditions for life. It is like buying millions of lottery tickets. Eventually, someone is going to win. If there are enough tickets, a winner is inevitable. However, there are several big problems with this theory. First of all, there is absolutely no scientific evidence for a multiverse. It is pure speculation. We cannot see other universes, we cannot measure them, and we cannot prove they exist. In many ways, believing in a multiverse requires just as much faith as believing in a creator, but without the historical or philosophical foundations. It is an invisible, unprovable explanation used to avoid an obvious conclusion. Second, the multiverse does not actually solve the problem of fine-tuning. It just pushes it back one step. If there is a universe generator that is pumping out billions of universes, that generator itself would need to be finely tuned to create life-permitting universes. You have not explained the design. You have just moved the design to a different level. It is like finding a machine that makes perfect watches. You cannot say the watches are not designed just because a machine made them. You still have to explain who designed the machine that makes the watches. Some people also point out that the vast majority of the universe is hostile to life. They say that if God designed the universe for us, why is space so cold? Why are other planets so empty and dry? Why is there so much radiation? But this misses the point entirely. We are not just asking why Earth is special. We are asking why the entire universe has the specific fundamental laws that allow any life to exist anywhere. The vast size of the universe is not a mistake. It is not a cosmic flex or a waste of space. According to physics, a universe that was much smaller or less dense would have collapsed long ago. The scale of the cosmos is necessary for the stability of the laws that keep us alive. The immense empty spaces are the buffers that allow the delicate dance of gravity and expansion to continue. The fact that you cannot stand on the rings of Saturn does not mean the universe is not designed. It means the design is much larger and more complex than our local neighborhood. Finally, some say this is just a God of the gaps argument. They claim we are just saying that since we do not know how this happened, God must have done it. But the fine-tuning argument is not based on what we do not know. It is based on what we do know about math and probability. When we use tools like Bayes' theorem to look at the numbers, the results are shocking. Bayes' theorem is a way of calculating how much new evidence should change our existing beliefs. Let us think about this in terms of probability. What is the probability that an intelligent designer created the universe, given how finely tuned it is for life? Without design, the odds of a life-permitting universe are absurdly low. It is 1 in 10 to the power of 41. That is because the constants of the universe could have been anything. Most possibilities make life impossible. Now, if we bring in the design hypothesis, a designer would have a reason to make a universe that supports life. Even if we are being very conservative and say there is only a 1 in a billion chance that there is a designer, those are still much better odds than random chance. When you run the math, even if you start off being very skeptical about the existence of a designer, the evidence of fine-tuning is so strong that it pushes the probability of a creator to over 99%. It is the most logical explanation for the data we have. The design argument is not a random guess. It is backed by solid probability. And that probability points to the idea that there is a cosmic designer. And that is what we mean when we speak of God. When we look at the stars, we are not just looking at random explosions and cold vacuum. We are looking at a masterpiece of precision. We are looking at a universe that was built with us in mind. This points us back to the truth found in the Scriptures. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. The precision of the universe is a reflection of the character of the Creator. He is a God of order, a God of justice, and a God of incredible detail. He did not just throw the stars into the sky. He balanced them. He did not just create the atoms. He tuned them like a master musician tuning an instrument before a grand performance. The fine-tuning of the universe suggests that you are not an accident. You are not a cosmic fluke or a lucky roll of the dice. You are part of a grand design that was established before the beginning of time. Every constant of physics and every law of nature was set so that you could breathe, think, and seek a relationship with the one who designed it all. When we see how much care went into the physics of the stars, we can trust how much care goes into the details of our own lives. Consider the complexity of a single human cell. It is more complex than a space shuttle. It contains a code, which is DNA, that is more sophisticated than any software ever written by man. For that cell to exist, the stars had to burn just right. The gravity had to pull just right. The atoms had to hold together just right. If God went to such great lengths to ensure the universe could support your physical body, how much more does He care about your soul? The fine-tuning of the cosmos is the ultimate evidence of His love. It shows that we were wanted. It shows that we were expected. In a world that often feels chaotic and random, the science of fine-tuning offers us a profound sense of peace. It tells us that there is a reason for everything. It tells us that the universe is not a cold, indifferent machine. It is a home. It was built by a father who wanted his children to have a place to live, to grow, and to find Him. When you look up at the night sky, do not feel small or insignificant. Feel cherished. Feel seen. Because the same God who adjusted the strength of gravity to a precision of 1 part in 10 to the 40th power is the same God who knows the number of hairs on your head. He is the same God who walks with you through your deepest trials. As we conclude our journey through the stars and the numbers today, let us carry this truth with us. Science and faith are not enemies. They are two different ways of looking at the same magnificent reality. Science shows us the how, and faith shows us the who. The more we learn about the how, the more we are in awe of the who. The fine-tuning of our universe is a bridge that leads us from the laboratory to the altar. It is a call to worship the one who holds the stars in His hands and who holds your heart in His love. Thank you for spending this time with us today as we explored the incredible evidence for our Creator. May you find strength in the knowledge that you are a vital part of a perfect plan.